I collapsed at the airport. TSA found my ultrasound photos of my secret twins, and my billionaire CEO ex-husband discovered the twins he thought I couldn't have. You think my mother poisoned you? Jonathan's voice cracked, his hands trembling as he stared at me across the hospital room. I don't think, Jonathan. I know she did. I met his eyes without flinching. For 3 years, Victoria Reed served me herbal tea every morning. Special tea, she said. Family recipe. To help with fertility. That's insane. My mother wouldn't. Your mother made me infertile on purpose. My voice was steady now, cold with certainty. And I can prove it. Those delicate Sevres teacups with the gold rim. The ones she kept specifically for me in her private sitting room. Have them tested. You'll find traces of feverfew in concentrations high enough to prevent any pregnancy from taking hold. Jonathan sank into the chair beside my hospital bed, his face the color of ash. The twins, he whispered, looking at the ultrasound images scattered on my bed tray. Twin A, Twin B, 18 weeks. These are my children. And my mother. Destroyed our marriage to protect the Reed legacy from someone she deemed unworthy. I placed my hand protectively over my stomach. But what she didn't count on was me figuring it out. Or me carrying the Reed heirs she convinced you I could never have. Now, you're probably wondering how I ended up in a London hospital, confronting my billionaire ex-husband about his mother's poisoning plot while pregnant with the twins he divorced me for not being able to conceive. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you loved? Someone you trusted with your whole heart, only to have them discard you like you meant nothing? This is my story. And if you've ever felt like giving up, if you've ever questioned your worth, if you've ever wondered whether truth really does win in the end, then you need to hear what happens next. Hit that like button right now if you believe people can change. And subscribe to Mr. Stephen's Stories, because what I'm about to tell you will restore your faith in second chances. Let me take you back to where it all began. 6 months before that airport security checkpoint. The divorce papers felt like ice in my hands. I stood in our penthouse, summer heat streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows, reading the same line over and over. Irreconcilable differences due to petitioner's infertility. Amelia, are you going to sign them or not? Jonathan stood across the living room, arms crossed. This was the man I'd fallen in love with 5 years ago. Now he looked at me like I was a problem that needed solving. A Reed heir is non-negotiable, he continued. We've tried everything. My mother says. Your mother. I couldn't keep the bitterness from my voice. She wants what's best for the family. This isn't easy for me either, but we both knew children were required. I thought about Victoria Reed then. Elegant, poised, terrifying. Come for tea tomorrow, dear, she'd say after each failed treatment. I have a special blend that promotes fertility. It's been in the Reed family for generations. And I'd go, desperate and ashamed, drinking her bitter tea while she talked about bloodlines and legacies. Sign the papers, Amelia. I signed. My hand shook, but I signed. Because what choice did I have? My body had failed me. Jonathan moved out that night. For months later, I learned through a society page that he'd married Elena Ashworth. The photo showed them at a charity gala, Victoria beaming between them. The caption mentioned Elena's pregnancy. Everything Victoria had wanted. I moved into my best friend Sophie's spare room and tried to remember how to exist. Mimi, you need to eat something. Sophie appeared in my doorway one morning. I was in bed, barely able to keep down toast, feeling worse than ever. I'm not hungry. You look terrible. You need to see a doctor. A new doctor. Someone not connected to the Reed family. So I went. Dr. Chen was a warm woman with kind eyes and no connection to the Reeds. Tell me about your symptoms, she said. I listed them. The fatigue. The nausea. The weakness. And when did these start? About a year into my marriage. And now? How do you feel compared to when you were receiving treatment? Actually, I feel better. The nausea is lessening. I have more energy. Dr. Chen made notes. When was your last period? 6 weeks ago. Maybe 7. I stopped tracking after the divorce. She looked up. Ms. Carter, I'd like to run some tests. 3 days later, she called me back. Your hormone levels are excellent, she said. Whatever was causing your previous difficulties seems to have resolved itself. She paused. Amelia, you're pregnant. The room tilted. That's impossible. I'm looking at your blood work, and you are definitely pregnant. About 8 weeks along. She leaned forward. I'd like to do an ultrasound. Based on your hormone levels, I suspect multiples. 30 minutes later, I stared at a screen showing 2 tiny beings. 2 heartbeats. Twins, Dr. Chen confirmed. Both look healthy. I sat in that examination room for an hour, staring at the ultrasound images. Twin A, Twin B. My body hadn't failed me. Something had been done to me. Victoria's tease. Her insistence on preparing them herself. The special cups. The way my symptoms started after I began drinking them. The way they vanished once I left. I pulled out my phone and started researching. Plant-based toxins. Temporary infertility. Feverfew. Pennyroyal. Herbs that in high concentrations could prevent implantation. Hours turned into days. I compiled everything. Medical records. Timelines. Research papers. And I made a decision. Jonathan had moved on. He had a new wife. A baby on the way. But more than that, I was terrified. Victoria had systematically poisoned me. What would she do if she found out I was carrying Readares? She'd take them from me. I had to disappear. The email from the Istituto Fiorentino d'Arte arrived like a gift. A 2-year contract in Florence. Dream job curating Renaissance art. I accepted immediately. You're leaving. Sophie stared at me, tears forming. I think Victoria poisoned me. If she finds out about these twins, she'll try to take them. What about Jonathan? Jonathan made his choice. These babies are mine. Sophie hugged me tight. Swear you'll tell me where you are. I swear. But you can't tell anyone. Especially anyone named Reed. 2 weeks later, I boarded a plane to Florence with 2 suitcases and a secret. Florence welcomed me like a lover. Terracotta roofs glowed golden. The Arno River sparkled. I found a small apartment in Oltrarno. My landlady, Signora Russo, took one look at my pregnancy and pulled me into a hug. Povera ragazza, she murmured. Poor girl. The elderly women in my neighborhood adopted me. I was simply Amelia, the American art curator who cried at the beauty of Caravaggio's use of light. Work at the Instituto was everything I'd dreamed. We were preparing an exhibition on female Renaissance artists. Women who'd created masterpieces despite a world determined to silence them. I felt a kinship with them. You're glowing, Bella. Marco, my colleague, smiled at me one afternoon. I rested my hand on my belly. I'm terrified. 2 babies. Alone in a foreign country. Non sei sola. He touched my shoulder gently. You're not alone. We Italians take bambini very seriously. He was right. My fruit vendor saved me the ripest peaches. My landlady's daughter, a midwife, checked on me weekly. The cafe owner left cornetti outside my door with notes. For the babies. Must eat. The twins grew. I started thinking of them as Ava and Elliot. Twin A and Twin B felt too clinical. For the first time in years, I felt seen. Not as a failed womb. Just as Amelia. A person of value. I should have known it couldn't last. The call came at 2 in the morning. I was 34 weeks pregnant, trying to sleep despite the twins' acrobatics. Mimi. Sophie's voice was panicked. Victoria Reed showed up at my apartment today. With private investigators. She knows. She knows about the pregnancy. Ice flooded my veins. How? Your old insurance company. A claim from when you saw Dr. Chen. Victoria has connections everywhere. She knows you're pregnant. She knows they're Jonathan's. What does she want? The silence spoke volumes. She wants to take them, I whispered. I heard her on the phone with her lawyers. International custody arrangements. Mimi, she called your babies Reed heirs. Like their property. After we hung up, I sat by my window watching the Arno. 6 weeks until my due date. 6 weeks to protect my children. I pulled out my research. Months of evidence. Medical records. Timelines. Research on toxins. Victoria's special teacups behind the bookshelf panel in her sitting room. If I could get those tested, I could prove what she'd done. But I needed help. And there was only one person with access to the Reed estate. I needed Jonathan. I couldn't hide anymore. Victoria would find me. But I had the truth. And I was done being a victim. I booked a flight to London. Risky at 36 weeks with twins, but I had to do this now, before the babies came. I packed my documentation. Medical records. Research papers. And the ultrasound images. Twin A, 18 weeks. Twin B, 18 weeks. Ava and Elliot. I'm going to protect you, I whispered. Whatever it takes. The airport was chaos. Crowds pressed around me as I made my way through Heathrow security. The TSA agent gestured me forward. Bag on the belt, please. I lifted my carry-on, my back aching from the twins' weight. That's when it happened. The terminal blurred. The light spun. My knees buckled. I heard someone shout. Felt hands catch me. Then darkness. When I opened my eyes, I was staring up at concerned faces. A TSA agent. A paramedic. And behind them, frozen with shock, was Jonathan Reed. Ma'am, stay still. The paramedic's voice was calm. You fainted. My hand went to my stomach. At 36 weeks, I was obviously pregnant. Miss, is this your bag? The TSA agent held my carry-on. The contents spilled. That's when I saw them. Scattered across the security table. My medical records. My research. And 2 ultrasound photos. Twin A, 18 weeks. Twin B, 18 weeks. Amelia. Jonathan's voice cracked. He pushed through the line, staring at me. His eyes went from my face to my belly to the ultrasound images. I watched the color drain from his face. You're pregnant. He reached toward the photos with a trembling hand. Twins, he breathed. But the doctors said you couldn't. The doctors were wrong, my voice came out steady. Or someone wanted them to be. The paramedic intervened. Sir, we need to take her to the hospital. I'm coming with you. Jonathan said it automatically. Are they, Amelia, are they mine? I could have lied. Should have. But I was tired of hiding. Yes, I whispered. They're yours. The ambulance ride passed in a blur. Jonathan sat beside me, holding my hand like a lifeline. I looked for you, he said quietly. After Elena told me she saw you at a gallery 3 months ago. I've had people searching. Your mother has people searching, I corrected. Did Elena tell you I was pregnant? No. She said you looked happy. That you barely glanced my way. He paused. Were you ever going to tell me? We arrived at the hospital before I could answer. Examinations. Blood pressure checks. For fluids. Through it all, Jonathan stayed. The doctor finally came in. The babies are fine. Strong heartbeats. But Ms. Carter, your blood pressure is concerning. Severe stress. Dehydration. Exhaustion. She looked at me seriously. You need complete rest. You're at 36 weeks with twins. They could come any day. Flying is inadvisable. Stay in London until after the birth. From his chair, Jonathan spoke. She can stay at my residence. Close to the hospital. I can ensure she has everything she needs. I laughed bitterly. So your mother can have me where she wants me? My mother? Jonathan's confusion seemed genuine. What does she have to do with this? The doctor left, giving us privacy. In the quiet, I finally told Jonathan everything. For 3 years, your mother served me herbal tea. Every visit to the estate. Special tea for fertility. She'd prepare it herself. Do you remember? I remember. She was trying to help. She was trying to destroy me. The words came out cold. After the divorce, my symptoms improved. Everything your specialist said was related to my infertility got better. Jonathan leaned forward. I don't understand. I've been researching for months. Plant-based toxins. Herbs that prevent pregnancy. That caused temporary infertility. That produced the exact symptoms I had. I watched horror replace his confusion. Feverfew. In therapeutic doses, harmless. But in high concentrations, it's an anti-fertility agent. Prevents implantation. Victoria served it with honey to mask the bitter taste. You think my mother poisoned you? I know she did. And I can prove it with those teacups. The Sèvres porcelain with gold rims. She kept them specifically for me. Where are they? Her private sitting room. East wing, 2nd floor. Behind the bookshelf panel. Jonathan pulled out his phone. He dialed, his hand shaking. William. It's Jonathan Reed. I need you to do something quietly. There's a set of teacups in my mother's sitting room. Behind the bookshelf panel. Secure them. He looked at me. I gave him the laboratory name. Take them to Harrington Independent Labs. Test for feverfew. My mother cannot know. If she asks, you haven't seen me. He hung up, staring at his phone. If this is true, if she really did this. It destroyed our marriage. She got exactly what she wanted. But you're carrying my children. Wonder and pain filled his voice. I never wanted the divorce. My mother said you'd been unfaithful. She showed me evidence. Hotel receipts. Restaurant bills. A man's name. Marco. The revelation hit. My colleague in Florence. Jonathan, he's gay. Happily married to his husband Luca. Jonathan's hands fisted. She fabricated evidence. Poisoned you. Destroyed our marriage. He looked up. Why? I wasn't good enough. My family wasn't old money. She needed the Reed legacy to stay pure. And now you're carrying my children. Ava and Elliot. I startled. How? You wrote their names on the back of the photos. In my head, I admitted. I needed to call them something. A knock interrupted. A police officer entered with a woman in an expensive coat. Ms. Carter. I'm Detective Inspector Sarah Wallace. Mr. Reed contacted us regarding serious allegations against Victoria Reed. We'd like your statement. Can you imagine finally having proof after years of being made to feel defective? Drop a comment if you think Amelia should have stayed hidden or fought back, because what happens next will shock you. The next 72 hours unfolded like a crime thriller. The teacups tested positive. Traces of feverfew in concentrations far exceeding therapeutic doses. The laboratory report was damning. But it got worse. Victoria's private journals were seized. Page after page of notes about managing the Carter problem and appropriate succession planning. She documented everything. My medical records showed hormone levels consistent with chemical interference. Then came the final piece. Victoria's housekeeper, Maria, was granted immunity for testimony. She admitted tearfully that Victoria had instructed her to add special herbs to my tea. That she'd been threatened with deportation if she refused. Victoria Reed was arrested on charges of assault, poisoning, and conspiracy to defraud. The scandal consumed every tabloid. Billionaire matriarch's toxic plot screamed the headlines. Poisoned for an heir. Through it all, Jonathan stayed. Not at my bedside, I wouldn't allow that. But close. In the waiting room. Always there. On the third day, Elena Reed visited. I won't stay long, she said, settling into the chair. She was visibly pregnant herself. I knew something was wrong. Victoria pushed our marriage so aggressively. And Jonathan was never truly present. Always somewhere else in his mind. She gave me a sad smile. Always with you, I suspect. I'm sorry. This must be humiliating. It's clarifying, Elena corrected. I deserve a husband who loves me. Jonathan deserves a chance to repair what his mother destroyed. Those babies deserve both their parents. Your baby will be fine. I'm filing for annulment on grounds of fraud. Victoria promised me things that were never Jonathan's to give. She stood. I hope you can rebuild what she broke. Some love stories deserve second chances. After she left, I cried. Not from sadness, but from unexpected grace. For days after my collapse, my water broke. The first contraction woke me at 11:15 p.m. By 11:25, I was calling for Jonathan. He appeared in my doorway, hair disheveled. What's wrong? The babies are coming. Within minutes, we were speeding toward the hospital. He held my hand through every contraction. You don't have to stay, I gasped. I can call Sophie. I'm staying. If you'll let me. I've missed everything else. Please. Ava Grace Reed Carter arrived at 11:47 p.m., weighing 5 pounds, 2 ounces. Dark hair and her father's green eyes. Elliot James Reed Carter followed at 11:53 p.m. 5 pounds even, fair-haired, screaming his fury. Jonathan cut both cords with shaking hands. Tears streamed down his face as they placed Ava in his arms. Thank you, he whispered. Thank you for letting me be here. For giving me a chance to be their father. You'll have to earn it, I said, exhausted. Every day. With both of them. I know. I'll spend the rest of my life earning it. Earning you back, if you'll let me. I didn't answer. Because while my heart remembered loving Jonathan, my mind remembered the pain. Trust, once shattered, doesn't reassemble easily. 3 months later, I was back in Florence with 2 infants, a complicated co-parenting arrangement, and a restraining order against Victoria spanning 3 countries. Jonathan visited every 2 weeks, flying in from London. He'd stay at a hotel, spend days learning to change diapers, and return to his separate life each Sunday. Slowly, we built something new. Elliot smiled at me today, Jonathan announced one Saturday, his face bright with wonder. He's been doing that for a week. But you bring out his happy side. And Ava? I glanced at our daughter attempting to eat her fist. Ava is reserving judgment on all of us. Jonathan laughed. He looked different now. Less polished. More genuine. He'd stopped wearing suits, showing up in jeans and sweaters that got spit up on. I have news. The trial date is set. Victoria's pushing for a plea deal, but the Crown wants full prosecution. Good. Also, I've established trust funds for both twins. Irrevocable, with you as primary trustee. Jonathan. I'm not trying to buy forgiveness. I'm trying to provide for my children. There's a difference. He was right. And he'd changed. The man who once prioritized his mother's approval had testified against her without hesitation. Stay for dinner, I offered impulsively. I made papa al pomodoro. Jonathan's smile could have lit the Arno. I'd love that. 6 months later, everything shifted. They're walking. I called to Jonathan in the kitchen. He appeared just in time to see Elliot take 3 wobbling steps before falling. Ava immediately pulled herself up and managed 4 steps before toppling into my arms. Did you record it? Every second. Jonathan now stayed in my guest room, which had become his room. We were cohabiting, co-parenting, coexisting in a space that felt like partnership. But we weren't together. Not officially. One evening, we sat on my balcony. Jonathan poured wine, his hand brushing mine. I miss you, he said quietly. I'm right here. I miss us. The way you'd steal my coffee. How you'd talk about art for hours. The way you'd kiss me awake before dawn. My throat tightened. That couple doesn't exist anymore. So we'll be a new couple. Built on honesty this time. No secrets. No interference. Your mother put a wedge between us for years. How do I trust that won't happen again? You don't. Not immediately. But Amelia, I've spent every day since the airport proving I'm not that man anymore. The one who let his mother dictate his life. Who signed papers without fighting. Who believed lies instead of trusting his wife. He turned to me fully. I can't change the past. But I'm asking for a chance at a future. Not for convenience or the twins' sake. For us. Because I never stopped loving you, and I don't think you stopped loving me either. He was right. Somewhere between the diaper changes and midnight feedings, I'd fallen in love with Jonathan Reed again. Not the man I'd married. That boy desperate for his mother's approval. This man. The father who made bottles one-handed while holding a crying infant. The partner who turned down a billion-dollar merger to stay near us. The person who testified against his own mother to protect us. I'm terrified, I whispered. Of being hurt again. Then we'll be terrified together. When you're scared, I'll remind you I'm not going anywhere. When I mess up, you'll call me on it. We'll fix it. Together. Together, I repeated. If you'll have me. I looked through the glass at Ava and Elliot sleeping peacefully. They deserved parents who loved each other. And maybe I deserved a second chance at love too. Ask me properly, I said. He set down his wine. Slid off his chair. Knelt on the narrow balcony. Amelia Grace Carter, mother of my children, love of my life, the woman I've spent 2 years trying to deserve, will you marry me? Again. For real this time, with no one's approval needed but our own. I pretended to consider. Will there be prenups drafted by Victoria's lawyers? Society expectations? Pressure to be someone I'm not? There will be a marriage between equals. A partnership where you keep your name if you want. Pursue your career. Make decisions jointly. Where our children see love, respect, and truth, not duty and inheritance. And if I want to stay in Florence, then I'll learn Italian. We'll build our life wherever you feel safe. The company can be run remotely. Nothing is more important than you and our children. I pulled him up, into a kiss that tasted of wine and tears and hope. Yes, I whispered. Yes to marriage, yes to partnership, yes to building something new. His laugh was pure joy as he lifted me, spinning me while I tried to shush him before waking the twins. We'll do it properly this time. Small ceremony. Sophie as your maid of honor. And Marco and Luca as witnesses. On the Ponte Vecchio at sunset. Anywhere. As long as I get to call you my wife again. Ava began to fuss inside. We broke apart, moving in harmony to tend to her. Jonathan lifted her gently while I prepared a bottle. Welcome home, I murmured. Jonathan met my eyes over our daughter's head. I've been looking for home for 2 years. Turns out it was with you all along. 1 year later, I stood in a London gallery at my own exhibition opening. My research on Renaissance women artists had culminated in this moment. I was pregnant again. Just one this time. Jonathan's arm was around my waist while Ava and Elliot toddled between Marco and Sophie's supervision. She would have approved, Jonathan murmured, gesturing to the Artemisia Gentileschi painting. She knew about surviving powerful people who tried to destroy her. She knew about painting her truth despite them, I corrected. There's a difference. Across the room, a journalist documented the event. Tomorrow's headlines would mention my marriage to Jonathan, his mother's trial, she was serving 8 years, maybe speculate about the new baby. But tonight, I was just Amelia. Art curator. Mother. Wife. Survivor. Someone who'd been poisoned, betrayed, divorced, and hunted, and who'd found her way back to love on her own terms. Ready to go home? Jonathan asked. I looked at Ava trying to eat a cocktail napkin while Elliot investigated the gallery echoes. At Sophie documenting everything. At Marco, who'd flown in from Florence. At Jonathan, who'd spent 2 years proving that people can change, that love can rebuild, that second chances are worth taking. Yes, I said, placing my hand over the small life growing inside. Let's go home. Victoria Reed was released after serving 6 years. She attempted to contact Jonathan once, a letter expressing regret for her overprotectiveness and requesting to meet her grandchildren. The letter went unanswered. Some wounds heal. Others we protect from reopening. Ava and Elliot grew up bilingual, splitting time between Florence and London, never knowing a world where their father wasn't present. When their little sister Margot arrived, they welcomed her with the easy acceptance of children who'd always known they were loved. I became director of cross-cultural Renaissance studies at a prestigious university. My book on women artists became a bestseller, not because of the scandal, but because the work was exceptional. Jonathan transformed his company's focus toward ethical AI and technology supporting families, not corporate interests. He spoke publicly about the toxicity of dynasty expectations and the importance of choosing love over legacy. And us? We still have difficult moments. Arguments about midnight diaper duty. Disagreements about holidays. Occasional painful reminders of the years we lost. But we face them together. With honesty. With hard-won trust. With the knowledge that what we have now, messy and complicated and real, is worth fighting for. Because true family isn't bestowed through bloodlines or inherited through empires. It's built. Day by day. Choice by choice. With love freely given and fiercely protected. And that is the only legacy that truly matters. If this story touched your heart, I need you to do something for me. Hit that like button if you believe in second chances. If you believe that betrayal doesn't have to be the end of your story. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that truth always wins, even when it takes time. Drop a comment and tell me, would you have forgiven Jonathan? Or was trust too broken to rebuild? I want to know what you think. And subscribe to Mr. Stevens Stories for more powerful tales about resilience, love, and the courage to rewrite your destiny. Because your past doesn't define you. Your choices do. Remember, honesty heals what deceit destroys. Redemption is possible even after the deepest betrayal. And real power lies not in inheritance, but in love freely chosen. Some second chances are worth every risk. Never give up on your truth. Never stop fighting for what matters. I'll see you in the next story. Until then, choose love. Choose truth. Choose yourself.